Good evening.
It's a fun word to say.
Isn't it?
Boanerges.
Yeah. Mark chapter 3 tonight. Glad that you're with us, and we'll get right into it. This is study number 5, Mark chapter 3.
Will we catch up? Do you think it'll?
I don't know.
I mean,
we'll see.
Probably not.
Probably not. We can try. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Are we ready?
Mark 3:1.
All right.
Here we go.
Mark 3:1 again. Jesus entered the synagogue, and a man was there who had a withered hand. And they were watching him to see whether he would cure him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, "Come forward." And then he said to them, "Is it lawful to do good or to do harm on the Sabbath, to save a life or to kill?" They were silent. He looked around at them with anger. He was grieved at their hardness of heart, and he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out immediately, conspired with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
That's
Some stuff.
there is. Well, like we said last week, it's the Sabbath again, and they didn't care anything about this man. Of course, they just cared about trying to get Jesus.
That and that tradition, I think.
They cared about Sabbath, but yes, they cared about the Sabbath more than they did the man.
Right. That's the thing.
Yeah, because we know the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So that obviously did not set well with these fellows, because they're out to get. They're not just out to prove him wrong. They want him dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty drastic. I've never wanted anyone dead. I don't know. I don't think you have either.
I hope not.
Yeah,
maybe, but if they did,
But then to actively pursue that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's.
He hadn't told me.
That's pretty brutal.
I think that wasp wanted me dead.
He got.
All right.
He had an encounter
A wasp.
with the worst kind. This is a red wasp.
Yes.
These are brutal.
But I'm pretty sure it wanted me dead, or at least
If it could have killed you with one sting,
yeah,
it would have done it. Matter of fact, that's what it was trying to do. It didn't know.
Yeah, it didn't know how big I was. It just,
die.
I mean, maybe it did. Maybe it underestimated the size of me.
Yeah.
Or overestimated it.
It's like, hey, I can still bring a tear to this.
And it did.
This man's eyes.
It did.
That close to the eye.
A couple. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, they were actively pursuing him. Well, in roundabout ways, because later on they feared the people, because the people were loving what Jesus was doing. He's healing. He cares about them. He's eating with them. He is not treating them harshly in any way. Religiously, he's not treating them harshly. Jesus does say that the Pharisees and the like, they would heap up burdens and care for the people to carry, but they weren't willing to do these things as well.
Was it strain at a gnat?
Yeah. So I like the fact that Jesus knows what's going to happen. He does. And
well, and I noticed that it says they were there watching him.
Yes.
They weren't there to worship or to honor the Sabbath, but they were there to watch him and see what he would do.
Some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus. They watched him closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. like, is he going to do this?
He's
Will
already
he do
done
this? Yeah.
So let's see if he'll do it again.
It, you know, you just wonder if these fellows could see that this was God, would they have done the same thing? I don't think they would, but maybe not have.
They're not convinced. They don't know where he was from.
If they were convinced this was God, it would still be problematic because wait a minute, they think they're catching Jesus in some kind of contradiction to the law, and he is he's Lord of the Sabbath, is what he said.
Well, and in
before this,
in their minds too, the King, the Messiah, was supposed to come and set up this Jewish kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not like this.
No, and there's if well, I don't even know if at this point they're asking the question if this is, really, if this man really is.
I don't think
but
they're.
Some of them might be, and if, saying if this really is him, then this is not the thing we were hoping for.
Yeah.
And if he's going, if he really is the Messiah, he's pulling down already these traditions that we value so much. Mm-hmm. What else is he going to take away from us?
Well, yeah, obviously he has power that they don't have.
Right. They're not sure where that comes from yet.
No.
But they'll ask.
So I like the question Jesus asked in verse 4. He asked them, he says to the man with the shriveled hand, stand up in front of everyone. And now, this is unlike the situation where they catch the woman in the act of adultery. Mm-hmm. They bring her before Jesus. They're just using her to get to Jesus. They don't care about the woman. The man was supposed to be there too, but that was a setup situation, and in this, Jesus is wanting everyone to see, of course.
The way I picture this, he calls him, and he turns him around to face the crowd.
Yeah,
puts his arm around
the
him.
way. Yeah, that's the way I see it.
And then he addresses the audience. Yeah.
He may whisper, "You all right? Yeah, we're going to do this.
Just hold on.
Yeah, just hang on. It's going to be all right." But he wasn't trying to make this man uncomfortable, anything like that. He just was proving the point that it's better to save and to heal than to do the opposite of that. To do good, to save a life than to do evil or to kill.
Did they have as much problems when he was doing miracles not on the Sabbath? When he was doing these healings and everything, it was all the same stuff. He was doing the same works. It just happened to be on this day, and they valued, like you said, that day more than they valued that man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it maybe is a sort of an embarrassing thing to them. They have sort of authority over the people, and Jesus is bigger. The people love him more because of what he can do and who they think he is.
And not only that, it says in verse 6, Pharisees went out and conspired with the Herodians, who they didn't really agree with, religiously or in the law on several things.
But
they're like, hey, let's get them involved in this too. The Herodians,
Yeah. Well, I like how he calls the man up there, and then I would like to think he has his arm around the guy, just like you were saying. Which is lawful on the Sabbath? This is a question to the Pharisees, to those that were wanting to kill him. Which is lawful on the Sabbath? To do good or to do evil? Well, that seems like an easy question, right? The answer is super simple. Even a child could get this right. To save a life or to kill. Would you rather do evil and kill someone, or would you rather do good and save a life?
Well, I think the question really just comes down to do. You're not supposed to do anything on the Sabbath. And so, and so what he's saying is it better to, if you're going to do something, is it better to do good or is it better to do evil?
And they had stripped the meaning from this day, this time, to the point where, you couldn't do good, you couldn't do anything, and they would measure.
How far you could walk.
And then they would go from that point that they had just set, and then go that equal distance away. And before long, you're where you wanted to be,
right,
so to speak. But you're doing it lawfully,
sure.
And that's that's what
we're pretty good at justifying things that we want to do.
Yeah,
finding loopholes and being able to measure, like you said, measure the distance we can go.
Yeah,
we're good at that. We know how to do that. They knew how to do that.
Every human knows.
We know our limits.
Yep.
And we know that we can cross those limits sometimes, and probably nothing's gonna, nothing's gonna happen. So
it kind of goes back to the worst thing that could happen is, like for Adam and Eve, when they sinned, they didn't just die. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, define die, right? And so, God's not striking people dead because they sin, because people do horrible things, and people get away with it until they get caught, and sometimes getting caught, they're relieved sometimes to get caught. All right, take me to prison for the rest of my life, and what is it, three meals in a cot, 3 squares in a cot, and
like
and I'll be all right, and okay, get a degree or whatever, just whatever, but doesn't seem that bad to some. But Jesus is asking, he's really striking at the heart of the matter here by asking them, what do you think about this? And so their response is,
and this is one of the few times that he questions them, rather than them questioning him, trying to trip him up. He's not really trying to trip him up here. I think this is just a simple question.
Right.
They get, like you said, that gets to the heart of their motivation and their intention.
Yeah, and this is a good example of how to be angry and not sin. Like James says, being angry is not a sinful thing, but we can sin in our anger. We can do that, and we're supposed to deal with our anger in that time frame of if we want to get technical about it, probably within the day before the sun goes down. Deal with it, address it. Don't let it just boil over. Don't give the devil an opportunity, because he surely likes to take those. But so he says, he asks them this question: is it law? Which is lawful on the Sabbath? To do good, to do evil, save a life, or to kill it? But they remain silent. And his response to their silence was anger. He looked around at them in anger and deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts. I like that. He's deeply distressed. He cares about them. That's why he's angry.
Right.
I mean, really. If they mean nothing to him, then you don't have that kind of response. You don't, if you don't care, then you truly don't care, and there's no emotion given to that situation.
I think he's upset that they have taken this law that God had instituted. It was in the Ten Commandments, right? I mean, this was a big one. It wasn't just a regular one, I guess you could say, but they had taken that and really just restricted it down to the point where the day was, and the tradition was more important than the people. And I think that's, I mean, we could broaden that out, if we take these, sometimes our traditions and put them over, or in more importance than people that we're trying to reach, and so this is upsetting.
Yeah, because everything that Jesus is doing in his ministry, in his life, is all about people.
Yes.
And it's a demonstration of how much God the Father loves these people, even these people here. This is why he's so upset with them, distressed at their stubborn hearts, because they just wouldn't, they would not see that human beings are important to God. And that's why all of the law that they're even squabbling about is for mankind. It's not the other way around. And of course, for them, it's the other way around. We've got to keep this, and keeping this, well, yes, keeping his commandments, that does show love for God, because, if Lee asked me to do something, when she asked me to do something, I always do totally the opposite of that. I mean, that's not showing love.
She would not put up with that.
She would not. So, God is trying to help mankind, and listen, it's been this way from the beginning. Seemed like it. Once they fell, Adam and Eve fell into sin, then you just see this unraveling. I mean, Cain kills his brother Abel, and then there are 8 people that get on a big boat, and the rest of the people, because the intentions of their heart were on evil all the time, that's all they thought about. And I can't imagine a world like that, but apparently that's the way it was. And that, maybe you could say, broke the heart of God, but he found someone who wanted to do what was right in Noah and his family. And just this unraveling that sin causes, or going away from the will of God. And so you would we could safely put Saul of Tarsus in with this group, because he was in with this group, all in, and we know that he acted in ignorance, is what Scripture said, towards Jesus and everything he was doing. He was so against him and the church, but he thought he was doing what was right in the sight of God, and when he found out that he wasn't, that he wanted to change.
Well, and again, it goes back to holding those traditions and those beliefs as important, or even more important than people.
Right.
And
yes,
just think about the Sabbath. What the purpose of it was for?
Yeah.
It was for rest. Just think if God had not given that command, or that made that a part of the law, is take a day off.
Right.
And recenter, refocus, where your where your thoughts are. Think about me on the Sabbath, the things I've done.
Yeah.
Take a breath. If not, we'd be working. Yeah. All the time.
Right. And
here they have made it the preeminent accusatory law that
Yes.
Jesus has broken.
And they,
I guess maybe because there wasn't another one they could pin on him.
well, and it's the one in the moment that they're going to latch onto, because he's there and he's going to do this. This man with this shriveled hand, whatever that was. I mean, I have an idea. I mean, but stretch out your hand, and he stretched it out. It was completely restored. And I, this is amazing to me. The next sentence is, then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how to kill Jesus.
I can imagine they just got up and left.
Yeah, I mean,
After seeing
isn't
man
this?
put
Yeah,
his hand out and they just turn around and
I mean, think
walk out.
about this man. I mean, I don't know. Did it prevent him from working? I have no idea. Now, how much does this mean to this man's livelihood, this man's family? Man, this is a time to celebrate. And nope.
I mean, you only have two
This is it.
hands. You doubled your the amount of hands that you have.
That's exactly.
To
Well,
use,
that's
so,
right. Yeah, that's a doubling. That's for sure.
That's a big deal.
Well, he still had it. It was just shriveled.
Right, but I mean, I assume he couldn't use it.
I'm assuming that as well. But yeah, the response. Let's get out of here.
Did you say shriveled hand?
Isn't that what it is?
No, withered.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well,
Maybe yours says shriveled.
let's see here. Where is it? Yeah, it says shriveled.
Does it? Well, mine
Yeah,
says
verse
withered.
3.
As if maybe it was healthy at one point, and then it just.
Withered.
Well, when my dad had strokes, and
Yeah.
and there at the end, his hand was
drawn.
locked.
Yeah.
He couldn't move it. He couldn't even straighten it out with
Yeah.
the other hand.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that, there's something like that. It was unusable. I think that's maybe the point.
Yeah, I said shriveled. I don't know why. I was like, why are you asking that? Sure, I said shriveled.
Withered, shriveled.
Withered and shriveled.
I don't know. I guess those mean the same thing.
Well, let's look the Greek up. Look up the Greek on that. Okay, so they go out and their response is, well, it's in keeping with why Jesus was so angry with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't change their tune, and they're not going to. It's sad. It's sad that you would have religious people, and these are the strict religious people.
Yeah.
These are the ones that, and man, it seems like sometimes, some religious people, you can't see the forest for the trees because I've got to focus on this instead of the people around.
There's a line in To Kill a Mockingbird. Have you ever read To Kill a Mockingbird?
I haven't read it, but I've
You haven't read it, Rube?
seen the
You
movie.
haven't killed any mockingbirds, have you? It's a sin to kill a mockingbird.
Keep moving.
Okay.
Keep talking.
That's one of the lines. It's a sin to kill a mockingbird. Anyway.
If I did, it wasn't on the Sabbath. I'll tell you that.
Well, one of the characters says there are some people that are so busy preparing for the next life that they don't live in this one.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, is what you're talking about here. You don't, you like you said, lost sight of the purpose. The purpose here is not keeping the law. The purpose here is being good to people and doing good no matter what.
Well, and that is
that is keeping the law.
It is exactly they asked Jesus to basically sum up the law.
Right.
Well, love God with everything you have, and love your neighbors yourself. Love God, love one another. That's the hardest thing for us to do.
Sure.
So
loving God may be easier, I think, and I think for some people it is. They focus on the loving God part and less of the loving people, and vice versa. I would say that's probably true too.
And I wholeheartedly believe that if this relationship is if our relationship isn't right, there's no way my relationship with God is right. So this is why Paul said, I know we're not in Mark when I say this, but this is why Paul got onto the church at Corinth, because they were having this meal, which was a common thing they did. they ate together, and during that time they would take the Lord's Supper. And so you have the sort of the haves and the have-nots, or the ones that could bring things and the ones that couldn't, and to the meal, and they separated up and ate everything, and the poorer folks came, and so he's like, this isn't even the Lord's Supper you're taking.
Right.
You are, this is not good. And then so we get what grows out of that in that letter is the chapter 13, what we know as the love chapter of the Bible. Comes from that that idea that they're not being loving, and that's telling.
And your worship is not valid if you're not. That's really what it's saying to me.
Right.
Your worship is useless because you are not being considerate to your brothers and sisters.
And in another place it says your meetings do more harm than good.
Yeah.
And boy, that's so. Yeah, losing focus is a huge problem. We need to have a godly focus when we're dealing with one another. We need to have a godly focus when we are worshiping with one another. I mean, we're not going to the synagogue, but we're coming to the church building, right? And you know, I've heard people talk about preparing for worship. I have a Spotify playlist that I listen to every Sunday morning. It's what I do, and it helps me. The songs that are in it help me think more about people and love toward people. And so you know, sometimes I'll come in early and just kind of walk around the auditorium and pray for because you pretty much know where people are going to sit, right? I mean, and I pray for those that will be coming and being there, and just trying to have a mindset that is geared toward God. And then if it's geared toward God, when I look at others, or when we look at others, then what we do is we respond in a godly way to them. These people, these Pharisees, were supposed to be top-notch religious people.
And they were.
And they were trying to be in their eyes. Yeah. And can you believe that a religious group of people so zealous, I mean, to use an old word, for God, would reject doing good and saving people
just because of the day?
Just because of the day. Because they needed to be religious.
Yes.
Because that's what pleases God. And you have God standing in front of them, angry at them for the way they're behaving, the way they're thinking. They don't care about this man. Man, that was cause for celebration. Nope. We're going to go out and we're going to group up with. Did you find the
Herodians? Yeah.
We're going to group up with this other group, and we're going to kill you. I mean, that's the response to this. That is horrible. No wonder Jesus was
a miracle was performed on the Sabbath day.
I'd like to say unbelievable, but it's not unbelievable.
It happens, I think, that now.
Yes.
I mean, not I think. I know it does.
That people are missing the forest for the trees. They're missing God, or they're missing people for the sake of being good or
being right.
Doing things just so.
And you and I have talked about this a lot. I was that person. I was more concerned about being right than I was about being good.
Yeah.
And that's...
And you can be both.
You can, yes.
We should be.
You should. But I think, if you know what I'm talking about, being better to myself and to my faith than I was to the people around me. And
don't you think, or do you think? I think.
Yeah. Don't you, or do you?
Do you? Yeah, sort of. That it takes a lot of focus to maintain a Christ-like mindset. It doesn't just come with becoming a Christian. It doesn't just come with, oh, I've repented of my sins, I've confessed Jesus as my Lord, buried with him in baptism, and raised to walk this new life, and so I should just be able to do it. Oh, I can't. Well, I guess it didn't take, or I guess, I don't know, that's just me. No, it takes time and effort.
Mm-hmm.
We have to practice. I mean, on Sunday mornings in the class that I teach, we're doing, right now, we're looking at spiritual disciplines. And, you know, no one likes that, to have to be disciplined. But Scripture says Jesus even learned discipline.
And this took a lot of discipline for him in this moment. When he says he was, there's not many times where it says he was angry with people. And he was angry here. And I know it was just a part of him that just wanted to, but, you know, like you said, discipline and focus on what's really important.
Yeah. Anger, but no sin. We know that because he's deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts. He's not thinking about, well, seriously, they had to go out and conspire with the Herodians. Jesus could have just killed them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're wanting to kill him, and they have to take the long road to get there. He could have just done it right then. And if they had really sensed that and known that, it would be a different story. But this is the way it is. God is putting up with religious human beings that are trying to thwart his purposes unknowingly, because they're trying to give God what he wants, and God is standing in front of them saying, you see this dude? He had a withered / shriveled hand, and now he's able to use it.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna, I get it. You're gonna go out and you're gonna conspire to kill me because of this. Okay, that's real religious.
Well,
you know,
and again, we tend to do this as people. If a little bit of something is good, then a lot of it must be really good. Yeah. And this is not, you know, same thing with religion. The more religion we can get, the better we're going to be as people. And that's Jesus is. Well, again, I think you're missing the point here.
Yeah.
This was created for you, for your benefit. Not you weren't created to serve this. You were created. This was created for you.
Yes.
As a benefit to you, and we just take it and we run with it, and well, anyway.
Well,
this.
No, of course not. But okay, Bible study, for instance, and then we'll move on. I think. Well, we're done, aren't we?
We're gonna get to the Herodians.
Oh yeah, we will after this. But like even our Bible study approach. And I've done this, maybe you've done this, I don't know. I'm not trying to implicate anyone. I think this is a good habit to have, a good practice to have. Read your Bible through in a year. It's a great thing to do. But I've changed the way I do that now. Especially when I'm reading the Gospels, I'm reading the Gospels to see how God treats people through Jesus. And through this study, it's kind of under the umbrella or the thought of Jesus never met an unimportant person, and you haven't either. And if we read this with that thought in mind, it's helpful. It keeps it keeps me honest, because I'm not just saying, well, I read through Mark this month,
right,
or this week.
As if you
now I can check that off.
Yes.
And you know, I have a book. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but
good.
It's really thin. It's paperback. It's thin. I should have been done with it years ago, but I have never finished it. because I'll start reading it, and I have all kinds of notes written in the book, and I'll sit, I'll get a notepad out, start writing, and I'll write, one day I wrote 20 some pages because I read a paragraph in the book, and so I never have gotten through that. And I told Lee the other day, I said, this is it's sort of inspirational for me. I mean, it gets the mind going and thinking about godly things. And so it's good for me. And I said, maybe I should never set out to finish this. Maybe I should just be content with inspiration. So I guess what I'm saying is that I found things, try to find things that make me think or challenge me in my godly pursuit, or the way I think about people, that kind of thing.
And I think there's value in critically thinking about why you believe what I think a lot of people just go, let's say blindly, and I don't want to, again, like you said, I don't want to run anybody down here necessarily, but for many people, their religious beliefs have been passed down through generations.
Come in. Come in. There's someone knocking on our door. Come in.
Behold, I knock.
No? Okay.
Anyway.
Maybe it's time.
Their religious beliefs have been passed down, from their parents or from a spouse maybe, and there's never really a lot of thought about why, still there, why, you believe what you believe. And I think sometimes some people can see that as a threat, to think critically about that and really question beliefs and question.
Well, even questioning God, and I've told people, well, He can surely handle that. I mean, it's not like you're throwing God aside, but if you have questions, in prayer, there's nothing wrong with asking God and asking Him to help you see.
Sure.
So, maybe
it looks, maybe it looks different for different people too. So
but these guys, these Pharisees,
they weren't questioning here. They were relying on the hundreds of years that they had built this up.
Yeah.
And now this guy's not going to knock it all down.
They wanted Him to heal on the Sabbath, because they wanted to have something to accuse Him.
Oh, of course.
And now they've got it.
Yes.
And that's why they're going out. That's why there was nothing said.
Right.
Because they've got what they need. We've heard enough.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. We're going to go try to get Him now. So
the Herodians, yes.
Yeah, Herodians.
They were a Jewish political party who sympathized with the Herodian rulers in their general policy of government and in the social customs which they introduced from Rome. So there's a tie-in to Rome here and their laws and customs. Mm-hmm. They were at one with the Sadducees in holding the duty of submission to Rome and of supporting the Herods on the throne.
Okay. So they're gonna.
So this is kind of a third
team up
party that were more aligned with the Sadducees, who were a different sect of the Jews than the Pharisees.
Not believing in the resurrection.
Right.
Yep.
But the Pharisees are like, hey, let's get these guys.
Anybody can help. I mean, if it can be that way in a lot of settings in life, politically.
Well, because they got the power.
That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, the Herodians, they were in good with Rome.
Yeah, so
and
we're going to use all that we can use to get Him.
And so it's not just a spiritual fight here. It's definitely political.
Yeah.
And
they're wanting,
politics have been
brutal forever, hasn't it?
Yeah,
ever since we decided, well, not us, but decided we want a king.
Well,
and remember Samuel being so upset with the people. God's saying it's me that they're not wanting. It's not, you know. And so here we are. I mean, in lots of ways. And so yeah, people use whatever they can use to their benefit. And if they have strong beliefs, which I think the Pharisees do,
Of course.
they're not going to believe anything. Nothing's going to move them from this point. Saul of Tarsus, being a Pharisee, the only thing that moved him from the point of is Jesus Son of God or not, is Jesus blinding him on the road. I mean, knocking him down, and he's blind for 3 days. That, I mean, he still has free will, but I mean, come on, that's going to rock your world a little bit. You're blind, and so he's willing to listen.
Well, and I don't know, for some of them it may have been their beliefs they held strongly, but for a lot of them it was their position, their politics, their, you know, maybe I'm sure there were some that were saying, you know, this guy, I think he's the real deal. But
well, yeah, look at Nicodemus.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I can't lose what I've got, or I'm not willing to change.
And Jesus says, you need to give it all to me. Give everything up and come follow me. And that is, people think they're willing,
right?
You know, but when it comes down to it, this is why it takes discipline, because I keep wanting to take this back, or you know, I don't want to let go of this. And when I do, it's always better. All right, we better stop here, I guess. We've had people knocking on our door, and I hear other people leave. Yeah. Other classes.
Should invite them in.
Yeah, we should have.
I guess they could have opened the door.
Could have. All right. You want to pray?
Sure. Father, thank you again for allowing us this time to see who Jesus is. Not just who he was, but who he still is, and how much he cares for people, and how he gets it right. He gets the important things right, and help us to just see him and think about that as we approach worship, as we approach our relationship with you and with everyone else. Help us show him this week. In his name we pray, amen.
Amen. Well, we'll see you next time for Mark chapter 3 still.
But we're never going to catch up.
It'll be number 6 in chapter 3. All right, read ahead if you'd like. See you next time.